Can I have the defense counsel come onto the screen as well, please? Great. Good afternoon, everyone. Everyone is here, and we are going to call the case of Marks v. Sonny's Rooftop Bar. My name is Judge Romano. Scoring judges, please look at the two buttons on the lower left-hand corner of your screen and turn off audio and video. Looks like everybody other than the litigants and I have our audio and video turned off. These should remain off until the trial ends. You should also have your video set to hide all non-video participants. This means that the only people on the screen right now should be the advocates and me. So with that being said, can we please have the attorneys make appearances starting with the plaintiff?
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Jackson Kunde. Today, I represent Jessica Marks' estate. I'm joined today by my co-counsel, Ms. Stinson.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Well, you won't be hearing or seeing much of Ms. Stinson. She'll be assisting me with timekeeping and technology. That concludes our introductions.
All right, from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning. My name is Paul Atherton, and today, alongside my co-counsel, Ms. Gabriella Ravel, we represent the defendant, Sonny's Rooftop Bar, in this matter.
All right, thank you. Are there any pretrial matters from either party? And let's start again with the plaintiff.
Yes, Your Honor. We'd first like the court to note that pursuant to pretrial order 11, exhibits 1, 22, and 23 are already pre-admitted.
Okay.
And then, Your Honor, we'd just like to ask for your preference regarding screen sharing, that when authenticating exhibits for entrance, that's done constructively outside the presence of the jury, so we don't have any 403 issues.
Yeah, that's fine. We will treat all of that as constructively outside the presence of the jury.
And then, Your Honor, once they're entered, that's automatically published to the jury.
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Nothing further.
All right. Any pretrial matters from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor, just one. Under 603 and 615, we would request the constructive swearing in and sequestration of all witnesses, barring the defendant's representative, Sonny Mehta.
Okay, done.
With that, the defense is ready for trial.
Excellent. Okay, so we will now hear the opening statements from each party. Everyone should make sure they are in speaker view. The button is the upper right-hand corner of your screen. And attorneys, please remember to mute your audio while the other attorney is speaking. And with that, plaintiff, you can proceed when you're ready.
They ignored the obvious. It's March 24th, 2019. A young woman, Jessica Marks, walks into Sonny's Rooftop Bar. Like everyone else at that bar, she sits down, orders a couple of drinks, even catches up with an old friend. But members of the jury, there's a problem. Miss Marks is underage, and that bar overserves her. You'll learn that employees of that bar do more than just watch as Miss Marks becomes intoxicated. They continue to give her drinks. They watch as she slurs her words, as she stumbles, yet they continue to serve her. And when Miss Marks leaves the bar that night, she gets in her car and she crashes. Jessica Marks is dead. Good morning, members of the jury. My name is Jackson Kunde. And today I represent Jessica Marks' estate. Because after Miss Marks passed away, her mother sued Sonny's Rooftop Bar for the wrongful death of Jessica Marks. It's a suit based on California's Dram Shop Act, which tells us that bars who overserve underage customers are liable for the damages caused by that overserving. Now that sounds complicated, but all it means is I have to prove to you three things today. First, that Miss Marks is a minor. Second, that Miss Marks was served while obviously intoxicated. And third, that over-serving contributed to her death. Today, the defense agrees. Miss Marks was a minor. So you're only left with two questions. Was Miss Marks served while obviously intoxicated? And did that over-serving contribute to her death? Let's talk about how we're going to answer those questions today. Today, you'll hear from Morgan Levin, a friend of Miss Marks. She'll tell you that Miss Marks was visibly intoxicated, was slurring her words, was stumbling when employees served her. And members of the jury, you won't just have to take her word for it. You'll see a video in court today of Jessica Marks in that bar. You'll be able to decide for yourself if Miss Marks was intoxicated. And then we'll show you that the alcohol Sonny's rooftop bar gave Miss Marks resulted in her death. You'll learn that when Miss Marks crashed, she had a BAC of 0.16, 16 times her legal limit. You'll learn that she crashed just minutes after leaving that bar, less than 1,000 feet from where they served her. Members of the jury, you'll learn today that when Sonny's rooftop bar ignored the obvious, Miss Marks and her family paid the price. That's why at the end of today's trial, I'll ask you to find the defendant liable. Thank you.
Thank you. Opening statement from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. May I transition to the well?
Yes.
May I please the court? Members of the jury, you cannot prevent what you cannot predict. I want to talk about a few things that Mr. Kunde didn't mention a moment ago. But what if I told you that from March 18th to March 24th, 2019, Jessica Marks used a fake ID to go into and consume alcohol at 8 different bars? But what if I told you Jessica Marks chose to consume all the alcohol opposing counsel just mentioned, knowing that it was against the law? Or what if I told you no employee of Sonny's rooftop bar saw Jessica Marks intoxicated? What if I told you the death of Jessica Marks was caused by her own actions? The jury, I don't need to tell you those things because the evidence will. Now, the plaintiff, they have the burden of proof in today's case. They have to prove to you, by a preponderance of the evidence, that Sonny's rooftop bar is liable for the wrongful death of Jessica Marks. Now, if, and only if, the plaintiff carries their burden, there's another step in today's case. You see, we as the defense have an opportunity to show the extent of Jessica Marks' comparative fault. So let's talk about that. Morgan Levin is going to be testifying today. Morgan Levin will admit March 24th, 2019 wasn't the only time Jessica Marks used a fake ID to consume alcohol. Morgan Levin will also admit, ultimately, members of the jury, Jessica Marks was not obviously intoxicated. But then you're going to hear from Sonny Mehta. Sonny Mehta was going to testify that he served Jessica Marks' table 8 to 10 times. Not once did Jessica Marks display any signs of being intoxicated. Now, as the court will instruct you at the conclusion of today's case, if there is an absence of predictability about today's case, there cannot be any proximate cause. And as a result, the plaintiff's claim fails. And further, in determining the predictability of today's case, we cannot indulge in hindsight. Members of the jury, it's not about what we know today. It's about what Sonny Mehta and Sonny's rooftop bar didn't know on March 24th, 2019. And make no mistake, Sonny's rooftop bar and its employees wishes the events of March 24th never happened. You have to remember, Jessica Marks was 19 years old. She was accountable for her own actions. Although Jessica Marks could predict her choices, Sonny's rooftop bar could not. Sonny's rooftop bar could not prevent what it could not predict. Opposing counsel talked about what was obvious, members of the jury, but the fact of the matter is, you cannot prevent what's obvious if it's not obvious to begin with. That's why at the conclusion of today's case, I'm going to ask you to find a verdict in favor of the defendant. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we proceed, I'll just wait for Mr. Atherton to get reset up from the other vantage point. And Mr. Atherton, do you plan to use the well again during the course of your presentation today?
Just during closing argument, Your Honor.
I'm going to recommend you reconsider that. The audio quality there is terrible.
I'd be happy to turn my mic up, Your Honor.
Okay, that's fine. With that said, let's move ahead to the plaintiff's case in chief.
Yes, Your Honor. Before calling our first witness, we'd request the ability to read out a portion of Exhibit 22 for the jury.
Okay.
Ms. Stinson, can we get Exhibit 22 up? And can we zoom in on that toxicology section? It says blood drawn at the scene of the accident contained 0.16 grams per 100 milliliter of blood, BAC. And we can take that down, Ms. Stinson. Thank you. Your Honor, at this time, we'd call Morgan Levin to the witness stand.
All right.
Your Honor, before opposing counsel commences with his direct examination, we have a request that the court provide a limiting instruction under 105. And may I be heard?
Yes.
We would request the court simply instructs the members of the jury the difference between blood alcohol concentration and obvious intoxication. Obvious intoxication is ultimately why we're here today, Your Honor. The former is ultimately not.
May I respond to that, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, we're aware of the differences between blood alcohol content and obvious intoxication. However, it's also the plaintiff's burden to prove that the defendant's furnishing of alcohol was also a cause of Ms. Marks's death.
Yeah, I think this goes to a part of the case that is not just obvious intoxication, as plaintiff's counsel says. And I also think that the difference between the two is something that can be addressed in argument at the close of the case. I don't think we necessarily need a limiting instruction particularly. And this strikes me as sort of fundamentally different from something like, evidence that could be admitted for one purpose but not another. So I hear your objection, but I'm going to overrule.
Understood, Your Honor.
Permission to proceed with direct examination, Your Honor?
Yes, please.
Good morning, Ms. Levin.
Good morning.
Could you please introduce yourself to the court?
Of course, my name is Morgan Levin. I'm 21 years old. I'm currently a biology major at UCLA.
Why are you testifying today?
I'm here to talk about my best friend, Jessica Marks.
I want to talk about Miss Marks. How did the two of you know each other?
We were best friends all throughout middle and high school. I mean, we had the same birthday, so we always called each other twins, and we just really connected immediately. We did everything together.
Miss Levin, I understand this might be hard, but when was the last time you saw Miss Marks?
March 24th, 2019, during our spring break.
I want to talk about March 24th. Did you and Miss Marks go to a bar that night?
We did. We went to a place called Sunny's Rooftop Bar. It was a local place.
Were you and Miss Marks underage at the time?
Yeah, we were. We were both 19, and I know it's stupid, but we were just kids. We wanted to have a fun time, and so yeah, we were underage.
You were both 19. Did that bar turn you away?
No, which was pretty much what we expected.
Let's talk about that night. Who took your orders when you got to that bar?
The bar's owner was the person who took our orders and who served us the entire night. Her name was Sunny Maida.
Let's talk about what the two of you drank that night. Miss Stinson, can we get Exhibit 14 up for Miss Levin? Miss Levin, do you recognize this?
Yeah, this is a picture that I took of our table that night.
Fair and accurate?
Yeah, it is. It looks like when I took it.
Your Honor, at this time, we offer Exhibit 14 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, Exhibit 14 is admitted.
Ms. Levin, looking at this photo you took, can you tell us what drinks Miss Marks had?
Yeah, so there's that kind of bluish green beer can, the IPA, and then those 2 White Claws.
Ms. Stinson, can we go ahead and circle the drinks Miss Levin just mentioned? Thank you. Now, around what time was this photo taken?
Maybe a few minutes after 10 p.m.
And did Miss Marks have any drinks after?
Yeah, she did. We had some more drinks a little bit later on in the night.
What'd she drink?
Well, we had gotten a bottle of wine for the table, and I had about a glass out of there, so she had the rest. We had a shot, another White Claw, and I think that was it.
We talked about what Miss Marks drank. I want to go over her behavior that night. Did you notice it change?
Yeah, I mean, when we first got to the bar, she seemed pretty fine. I mean, maybe a little bit buzzed, but pretty normal. She was able to talk normally. But as the night went on, she started to slur her words more. She was stumbling. She didn't make sense sometimes, and it didn't seem like she knew what she was doing. So she just kept getting more drunk.
Miss Stinson, can we get Exhibit 10 up for Miss Levin? No. Miss Levin, do you recognize this video?
Yeah, it's the last video that I have of Jessica.
Just say it's fair and accurate.
From what I can see, yeah, it looks like when I took it.
Your Honor, at this time, we offer Exhibit 10 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, Exhibit 10 is received.
Permission to play that for the jury?
Yes, that's fine.
Hi everyone, Morgan and I are in Hollywood. We're at a bar. It's kind of like a Philly bar, except everything is really, really expensive. $10 for a seltzer. And everyone here wants to be a model or an actress. I'd like to thank the Academy. Mom and Dad, you've inspired me. Okay, well, go big or go home.
Miss Stinson, we can take that down. Miss Levin, was Miss Marks's behavior on camera consistent with what you saw that night?
Yeah, it was. That's how she was acting pretty much the whole night.
Now, earlier you mentioned that Sunny Mehta took your orders. I want to talk a bit more about her. How many times would you say you saw Miss Marks and Miss Mehta interact?
Well, I mean, I was pretty much with Jess the whole night, and our server came over and took our order maybe 4 or 5 times and then brought us our drinks. So 8 to 10 times, I would say they interacted.
Did Miss Mehta ever tell you that your friend had had too much to drink?
Yeah, at one point, Jessica was walking down the stairs. We had been sitting on the rooftop, and she tripped and fell down some of them, and she bumped into Sunny. And that's when Sunny said, like, whoa, we might need to cut this one off.
Did Miss Mehta ever cut Miss Marks off?
No, she didn't.
I want to talk about the end of that night. Miss Levin, what time did you leave that bar?
Jess and I left at around 11:45, I would say.
Miss Levin, how did you plan on getting home?
I called myself an Uber just because I wanted to be safe. I didn't feel safe driving home with Jess. I tried to convince her to get into the Uber with me, but she didn't want to.
What happened when Miss Marks got in her car?
She got into her car and she started driving, and she crashed just a little bit outside the bar.
What was the next thing you remember?
car was right behind her, and I watched her car roll off into the ravine, and I called 911, and I watched them pull her body out of her car. I'm sorry.
If you need a moment, we can take it.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm fine.
Well, how far did Miss Marks drive before she crashed?
She didn't get more than 1,000 feet from Sunny's parking lot.
Thank you for your testimony today. Your Honor, I have nothing further at this time.
Thank you. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. May I adjust my camera?
Yes.
May I proceed? Good morning, Ms. Matthews.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ms. Levin. Ma'am, as you mentioned in your direct examination, Jessica Marks was drinking that night, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was.
Well, the night that she died, wasn't
Yeah.
it? We're going to talk about that night. First, I want to address 6 days prior. Your Honor, permission to screen share a timeline demonstrative of March 18th to March 24th, 2019.
Granted.
Ms. Rao, can you screen share that for us? Ma'am, you can't deny that on March 18th, 2019, you and Jessica Marks consumed beer at Anna's bar, right?
Yeah. That was the first day that she got in.
March 19th, 2019, you and Jessica Marks consumed beer at Toby's Taps, right?
We did, but like the rest of the week, I mean, except for the 24th, we didn't have that much to drink.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance?
Counsel, where are you going with the drinking that led up to March 24th?
Yes, Your Honor. As Morgan Levin is about to testify, she and Jessica Marks used fake IDs in entering all these bars. Now, Your Honor, a fact and consequence in today's case, which is defined as relevance pursuant to 401, is how Jessica Marks entered Sunny's rooftop bar. If you'd like, we can conditionally admit this evidence.
May I respond to that, Your Honor?
You may.
Your Honor, both parties have stipulated today, pursuant to pretrial order 14, that Miss Marks was a minor at the time. There's no reason to admit this evidence in court today. That's already been proven.
So, Mr. Atherton, I understand how she got into the bar may be a fact and consequence, but how does the fact that she was drinking, let's say I assume that she was drinking all of these days, how does that help us understand how she got into the bar? How is it probative of that part of the case?
Your Honor, we're actually not using this evidence to prove that she was drinking at the bar. This is all about the fake ID that Jessica Marks and Morgan Levin used from the 18th to the 24th. So it falls under 608 Section B as well, Your Honor, as it goes to the deception that Morgan Levin and Jessica Marks used in entering all of these bars, and it decreases their credibility.
May I respond to that, Your Honor?
You may.
Frankly, Your Honor, the credibility of Miss Marks isn't in a dispute today. They're only offering this as bad character evidence of Miss Marks. She's not testifying today.
May I be heard?
Yeah, I don't think this necessarily goes to credibility of the witness, or I mean, credibility is sort of always at stake, but I am not sure that it's very probative of that. Mr. Atherton, please, you were about to say something else.
Yes, Your Honor. If you'd like, under 105, we can request the court provide a limiting instruction that this only applies to Morgan Levin, and that Morgan Levin used a fake ID in entering all of these bars. And under 608B, this goes to Morgan Levin's credibility, lack of truthfulness, and that Jessica Marks mirrored that.
Well, I still don't feel like, and I want to hear from you one more time, I still don't feel like I've heard how this is particularly relevant to the 24th. I mean, whether or not she used fake IDs or the same fake ID to enter all these other bars, I don't think it really helps us assess whether she used the same fake ID to enter this bar. other than through a sort of character evidence argument. What is the connection there?
Under 406, Your Honor, a habit or routine practice on behalf of Morgan Levin and Jessica Marks. It's
Sure.
absolutely not only relevant, but imperative for the members of the jury, for the trier of fact, to understand the credibility of the witness. That falls under 608B. But it's also important for the members of the jury to hear that this is a habit of Morgan Levin and Jessica Marks.
May I respond to that, Your Honor?
You may.
First of all, Your Honor, a couple of nights in which every single night they actually didn't go to bars and drink doesn't constitute a habit. This is 1 week. Furthermore, Your Honor, it's not in contention that Miss Marks and Miss Levin were minors in that bar. A habit, frankly, isn't relevant in today's case.
Yeah, this is definitely not habit evidence. I'm going to sustain the objection. If there is some way that you can tie up the use of fake IDs prior more tightly with the question of what happened that night, I'm willing to reconsider, but for now, I'm going to exclude this.
Yes, Your Honor. May I make an offer of proof during the the cross-examination of Levin?
Sure.
Ma'am, you can't deny you used a fake ID in entering Sunny's rooftop bar, right?
Well, I actually don't remember showing my ID to anyone at Sunny's that night.
Ma'am, you can't deny Jessica Marks used a fake ID, right?
That week, she may have used it a few times. I remember that. But I don't remember either of us getting carded that night.
Ma'am, I'm referencing the 24th of March. Jessica Marks had a fake ID that night.
Well, I mean, we were both in possession of the fakes, yeah.
Objection, Your Honor. We re-raise our relevance objection. Opposing counsel's line of questioning as to whether or not Miss Marks had a fake ID or not, it frankly isn't relevant in today's case.
May I
You may.
I believe opposing counsel's previous 402 objection pertained to the potential character evidence of the 18th to the 24th, Your Honor. This is a completely separate issue. This is what Jessica Marks did and used only on the 24th of March.
Okay, I'm going to overrule the objection. I think questioning about what she did that day is sort of a different thing.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, I want to talk about the day in question. You got to Jessica Marks' Airbnb at 7:30 p.m., right?
She picked me up at my dorm at around 6 p.m., I think.
Is that a yes to my question?
Yeah, I think we got there at maybe 7:30.
Jessica Marks had a couple of drinks and then drove you to Sunny's rooftop bar, right?
She did.
You arrived at 9 p.m., right?
Yeah, pretty much on the dot.
You went to table 4 of the rooftop, right?
Yeah, we did.
You were served by Sunny Mehta that night, right?
Right, she was the only person who brought us drinks or took our orders.
Ma'am, I want to talk about what you ordered. You can't deny Jessica Marks ordered red wine, correct?
Yeah, we got a bottle for the table.
3 alcoholic seltzers, right?
Right, there were 3 mango White Claws.
A beer, right?
Yeah,
And a shot, right?
yeah, it was one of those green tea shots.
Ma'am, Jessica Marks ordered and consumed all of those beverages despite being a minor, right?
Yeah, we were both 19.
It's your testimony today. Jessica Marks was obviously intoxicated as a result of consuming those beverages.
Yeah, she was.
Meaning she had the usual signs of being intoxicated, like red eyes and slurred speech.
Yeah, that's what I saw from her that night.
You recall taking place in an oral deposition, right?
Yeah, I do.
You'd be able to recognize a transcript from that oral deposition?
Yeah, I would.
Ms. Rowell, can you screen share exhibit 24 for us? Specifically page 35. Ma'am, do you recognize this as a page from the transcript of your oral deposition?
It's a little small, but yeah, I think so.
It's fair and accurate.
It looks to be.
It hasn't been altered in any way.
No, it doesn't.
Defense offers page 35 of exhibit 24, Your Honor.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor, this is all hearsay.
Response, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor, we're using this to go to the effect on the, pardon me. Actually, Your Honor, we're using this under 803, section 3. Ms. Rowell, can you specify what lines we'll be referencing? Your Honor, we're referencing lines 17 through 20, where Morgan Levin specifies and starts her answers with "I can't point to" and "I can't point to." In other words, Your Honor, she's saying "I can't remember" and "I can't remember." Under 8033, that is a then existing mental condition because she's expressing her lack of ability to remember what happened that night.
May I respond to that, Your Honor?
You may.
Your Honor, opposing counsel is free to ask Ms. Levin herself if this is true. Frankly, there's no reason to offer a prior statement from her deposition into court today.
May I respond?
You may.
First, Your Honor, I want to make sure I'm clear. Is opposing counsel objecting to relevance now, or is it still hearsay?
Your Honor, we don't contend there's any relevance to entering prior statements from Ms. Levin on the record today. She's free to testify to whether or not those are true in court today. There's no prior inconsistency.
May I respond?
You may.
As that is the case, Your Honor, we're using this under 617 impeachment evidence.
Well, if you're going to use a prior statement as impeachment evidence, you need to confront her with the prior statement before you show her the document. So it would be fair, for instance, to ask Ms. Levin, can you tell us a specific time when Sunny was taking our order and Jessica was slurring her words? But she hasn't been confronted with that yet. I think if you are going to impeach her and she disputes either of these things, which I take to be plaintiff's counsel's point, then it might be proper to use the transcript. But at this point, we're just not there yet. So the objection is sustained.
Ms. Rowell, you can remove that for now. Ma'am, I want the members of the jury to understand your testimony. You can't point to a specific time where Sunny Mehta was taking your order and Jessica Marks was slurring her words.
No, because that's how she was acting the entire night.
You can't point to a specific time where Sunny Mehta was delivering your order and Jessica Marks had red eyes. Right?
No, again, because she looked and sounded intoxicated the entire night. It would have been every time.
Ma'am, you can't deny that after the accident, you were interviewed by Detective Sammy Gaskins of the Los Angeles Police Department, right?
Yeah, I was.
You can't deny you told Officer Gaskins you and Jessica Marks didn't have any drinks initially, right?
Yeah, I did, and it was stupid, but I was a scared kid. I was 19. I had just gone to a bar and was drinking with my friends, and I mean, that's illegal. I was scared.
Ma'am, you can't deny at the end of the interview, you told Officer Gaskins Jessica Marks had 3 drinks, right?
Yeah, I did.
You deny that months later you were interviewed by plaintiff counsel, right?
Yeah, I was.
You can't deny after that you said Jessica Marks had 6 drinks, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, that night was kind of a blur. I just lost my best friend.
I understand that, ma'am. But you can't deny you said that after plaintiff counsel and the plaintiff herself threatened to sue you.
I didn't even really take that seriously. I mean, it was my best friend's mom.
Ma'am, is that a yes to my question?
I mean, that's when I said that, but I didn't take that lawsuit seriously. She just lost her daughter. She was scared. I understood where she was coming from.
I appreciate your time, ma'am. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any redirect examination?
Briefly, Your Honor. Levin, opposing counsel asked you a number of questions about statements you made to the police. Why'd you make those statements?
I was terrified. I was shaken. I had just had to call 911 because I watched my best friend crash her car into a ravine and die. And I'd also been drinking that night. I just didn't know what to do. And I know.
Your Honor, I apologize. I don't mean to interrupt the witness, but I believe opposing counsel has ran out of time.
I'm guessing you're getting that from your timekeeper. What are we seeing from the other side's timekeeper?
Ms. Stinson, can we get a time check?
All right.
Your Honor.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Levin. You're excused. I take it there's nothing further from the plaintiff?
Pardon me, Your Honor. No, at this time we rest our case in chief.
All right. Evidence from the defense.
Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls Sonny meth. May I proceed? Good morning, ma'am. Please introduce
Morning.
yourself to the members of the jury.
I'm Sunny Mehta,
How old are you?
28.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a businesswoman of sorts. I do odd jobs, stuff like that. But I used to own a bar over in Malibu,
What was the name of that bar?
Sunny's Rooftop Bar.
Ma'am, you said that you were the owner of the bar. Can you describe to the members of the jury what your roles were as that role?
I own the bar. I did various things around the bar. I did some marketing. I hired employees, fired them. And if we were short-staffed, I worked at the bar.
You say you worked inside of the bar. Did you receive any training to do so?
Yeah, it's required by the state of California to take this class, beverage responsibility service, something like that. Teaches you about intoxication and when to serve or not to serve.
What did that course primarily focus on?
Taught us all about intoxication, the signs, the symptoms, how to spot it, stuff like that.
Ma'am, based upon that training, what are the usual signs of being intoxicated?
I mean, it's the usual stuff: bloodshot, red, watery eyes, slurred speech, loss of balance, or trouble concentrating on things, stuff like that.
Taking that into account, I want to talk about March 24th, 2019. Ma'am, do you remember seeing Jessica Marks that night?
Yeah, she came into my bar.
About what time?
It was early in the night, maybe 9 o'clock.
What did you do in response to seeing Jessica Marks?
Well, she walked in and it was me and just one other bartender working. So I brought her and her friend, Morgan Levin. I brought them up to the roof and I seated them at table 4.
Now, did they order that night?
They did.
What was the first order?
They ordered some wine and they also ordered some chips and guac. It's a house special.
Ma'am, after the first order, did you see Jessica Marks' ID?
I did.
Can you describe to the members of the jury what it looked like?
It was a Pennsylvania driver's license. It had her picture on it, date of birth, what you'd normally see on an ID.
Ma'am, was it fake?
Yeah, it was. It didn't have any personally identifying information, any holograms, anything like that.
Do you know it was fake on March 24th, 2019?
No, I didn't. But upon reflection, it was pretty obvious that it was a fake.
You mentioned that the red wine was the first order. What were the other orders?
They also ordered some White Claws, which are these seltzers. I don't like them that much. I think they taste bland. They ordered some beer, and at the end of the night, they ordered these 2 shots. They were green tea shots. I like them a lot. Those are really good.
Ma'am, did you serve Jessica Marks all of those occasions?
I did.
Did you ever see Jessica Marks consume one of the beverages?
I mean, I was going around making the rounds on the roof all night, so no, not really.
Ma'am, when, if ever, did you see Jessica Marks have any signs of intoxication?
I didn't.
Earlier today, you talked about your training to become a bartender. What did that training primarily focus on?
It focused on teaching you when to serve, when not to serve. We learned about those signs of intoxication, stuff like that.
What are those signs?
Well, they are the red, bloodshot, watery eyes, slurred speech, loss of balance, trouble concentrating or loss of coordination, stuff like that.
Your Honor, permission to screen share a time, or rather a demonstrative identifying the characteristics of being intoxicated according to Sonny Mehta?
Sure.
Ms. Rowell, can you screen share that for us? Ma'am, when, if ever, did you see Jessica Marks have bloodshot or watery eyes?
I didn't.
When, if ever, did you see Jessica Marks look like she lost her balance?
I didn't.
I want to delve into that for a moment. Now, earlier today, Morgan Levin testified that you saw Jessica Marks stumble down the stairs that night. Ma'am, did that ever happen?
No, it never happened. I don't really know where that came from, but it never happened. No one bumped into me that night.
Ma'am, Morgan Levin also testified that in response to seeing this, you said, "Whoa, Frankfurt, we might need to cut this one off." Did that ever happen, ma'am?
Nope.
Let's go back to the demonstrative. Did you ever see Jessica Marks or hear Jessica Marks slur her speech?
No, I didn't.
Did you ever see Jessica Marks look like she lost her concentration at all?
Nope.
Thank you, Ms. Rowell. You can remove that for now. Ma'am, when, if ever, did Morgan Levin identify to you that Jessica Marks was intoxicated?
She didn't.
When, if ever, did Morgan Levin say to you that Jessica Marks was intoxicated?
She didn't.
Well, ma'am, earlier today, Morgan Levin also testified that toward the end of the night, you came to their table, nudged Morgan Levin, and pointed to Jessica Marks. And you said, "This one's not driving home," right? Ma'am, did that ever happen?
It did, but it didn't happen like that. I was referring to Morgan Levin, not Jessica. When I pointed to her, I was talking to her because Morgan Levin, to put it lightly, she was as drunk as a skunk, and I didn't want her driving home. I didn't think that it would be safe.
Ma'am, when, if ever, did you think Jessica Marks was intoxicated on the 24th of March?
I didn't.
Thank you for your time. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Mehta. Can you hear and see me all right?
Yeah,
I want to start with something you mentioned on direct examination. Now, you told us that you saw Jessica Marks's fake ID that night, right?
I did.
Right, and you know that that was a fake ID, correct?
That's correct.
So when you saw that fake ID that night, it's your contention you didn't know?
That's true.
Only upon reflection, you realized it was a fake ID.
That's correct. That night it was kind of dark and there weren't that many people working. I didn't have time to take a very close look at an ID like that. We were checking them manually.
It's your testimony you didn't have time to look at Miss Marks's fake ID. You understand that's your responsibility as a barkeeper.
I did check it. I just didn't have enough time to closely inspect it.
Didn't closely inspect it. All right, well, let's talk about some other things you didn't closely inspect that night. You had a conversation with Miss Marks around 11 o'clock, right?
Yeah,
Right, and it's your testimony. Miss Marks was completely sober, correct?
she didn't appear intoxicated.
Your Honor, this time Miss Stinson is displaying a demonstrative aid. There are screenshots of Exhibit 10. Miss Mehta, you had a chance to see this video in court today, right?
I did.
Now, you'd agree with me that Miss Marks looks drunk in this video, right?
Yeah, in the video, I wasn't there though. And a lot of times I find that younger people, they like to act up and seem cool for their Instagram followers.
It's your testimony she was just acting cool for her Instagram followers?
Yeah, I was walking around that roof the whole night serving customers and she didn't look like that.
You know that after this video was taken just hours later, Miss Marks crashed her car and died.
That's correct. Hours later, and everyone, they handle their alcohol differently. Their metabolism is different. So they appear and they show signs of intoxication differently.
All right, but just to clarify, if you saw this video, you'd be concerned, right?
If I saw the video being taken, yeah.
Right, you're telling us you never saw this behavior At this, you heard in court today, this video was taken around 11, didn't you?
That's correct.
So around the same time this video was taken, you had a conversation with Miss Marks.
Yeah, around the same time.
Right, during that conversation, she told you she was going to drive home.
She did, because her friend, Morgan Levin, she looked intoxicated, and I didn't want that one driving home.
That's a yes to my question. She told you she was going to drive home.
Yeah, and I wasn't concerned about it.
You weren't concerned about it. You know that she got in her car that night.
I do.
You're telling us you never saw those symptoms. You know she crashed her car, right?
That's correct. I didn't see any of the symptoms.
Miss Mehta, you saw that crash site.
I did driving home.
You know that it was just around the corner from where you served her, correct?
That's correct, but that doesn't mean that she was showing those signs in my bar.
Thank you, Miss Mehta. Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time.
All right, any redirect examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Mehta, opposing counsel talked about the video you saw earlier. Ma'am, when, if ever, did you see Jessica Marks act that way?
I didn't. She wasn't showing any signs of intoxication at all during the night. Like I said, people, they show their levels of intoxication differently. They have different levels of metabolism. For example, I can have one glass of wine and know that I'm not showing signs of intoxication. If I have another glass of wine, I know that I shouldn't be driving, but I'm not showing those signs of intoxication till I have at least 3 more glasses of wine. It's different for everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Anything further from the defense before closing arguments?
No, Your Honor. The defense rests.
All right. If you need a couple of minutes before closing arguments to test microphone levels, I'm going to give that to you. So I'll turn off my camera and mute myself. You can feel free to do, I'm not going to ask everybody to step out, but you can feel free to do what you need to do to test levels and get feedback from your co-counsel. And then I'll pop on again in about 2 to 3 minutes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
I believe we fixed the issue, Your Honor.
Excellent. Well, then we are ready to proceed if you are and if plaintiff's counsel is ready.
We're ready to proceed, Your Honor.
All right. Excellent. We'll begin with closing arguments from the plaintiff.
They ignored the obvious. It's March 24th, 2019. Morgan Levin takes her friend's phone and she films a video. You saw that video today. It's a video of someone who's visibly intoxicated. A video of someone who's not fit to drive. A video of someone who shouldn't be served another round. And you heard that at the same time that video was filmed, Miss Marks went up to Sunny Mehta, told her that she planned on driving home. And in that moment, after Miss Mehta had ignored her age, Miss Mehta ignores her intoxication, and Miss Mehta ignores that statement. They ignored the obvious. Miss Marks and her family, they've paid the price. Members of the jury, we're here today because of California's Dram Shop Act. It tells us that bars who overserve underage customers are liable for the damages caused by that overserving. It's about safety. It's about the responsibility a bar has to protect not just its customers, but anyone else they could hurt. And today we had to answer two questions. They're the same two questions I told you about at the beginning of trial. Was Miss Marks served while obviously intoxicated? And did that over-serving contribute to her death? Let's walk through how we prove that today. Today you heard from Morgan Levin, and she told you what Miss Marks had to drink that night. 5 drinks and most of a bottle of wine. In fact, today the defense agreed with that. They had 5 drinks and most of a bottle of wine. And you saw how that affected Miss Marks's behavior. Miss Levin told you that she was slurring her words, that she was stumbling, that she had bloodshot eyes, all symptoms of intoxication the defendant knows. And we showed you a video. You saw that video in court today. It's of Miss Marks, drunk, exhibiting those symptoms. And the defense, they want you to believe that Sonny Mehta, who was in the bar the entire night, who was up on the patio with Miss Marks and Miss Levin, that she never saw that behavior. She told you in court today that that person is drunk. But they never saw it. They told you that they had a conversation around with Miss Marks at the same time that video was filmed. They want you to believe Miss Marks is drunk in that video, but the second they talk to Miss Mehta, she's sober. That's obvious intoxication. Next, we showed that Miss Marks died as a result of that alcohol. You heard today that it was just minutes after Miss Marks left that bar that she crashed. You heard it was just 1,000 feet from that bar where Miss Marks crashed. And you heard that her blood alcohol content at that time was 0.16, 16 times the legal limit for a minor. Members of the jury, we've met our burden. But in a moment, the defense is going to have the opportunity to speak to you. They'll tell you that Miss Mehta never saw that behavior. But as you listen to their argument, I want you to remember something. When Sonny's rooftop bar allowed a minor in, when they served that minor and they served that minor and they overserved that minor, the responsibility to protect her, it fell on them. Today, you heard from Miss Mehta that she couldn't fulfill her duty as a bartender. She didn't have the time. And Miss Marks is dead because of it. Find Sonny's rooftop bar liable. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Closing argument from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. Again, may I transition to the will?
Yes.
May it please the court. Members of the jury. I want you to imagine a college student walking through a library. And while nobody's watching, that college student takes out a box of matches from her pocket. She lights a match, throws it in a random direction. She then repeats this action 1, 2, 3 times. The book on the floor catches on fire. Suddenly, the library becomes ablaze. But the college student makes it out in time. She gets into her car, starts the engine, drives away. While she's driving, she looks in her rearview mirror and she sees the library on fire. She's distracted. So she swerves into a ravine and she dies in a car crash. But after, the estate of the college student sues the library. They say somebody should have stopped her. They should have known what our daughter was going to do. As absurd as that story might sound, it's not all that different from the one you've heard today. Sonny's rooftop bar could not have known of the matches that Jessica Marks had that night. The first match, consuming alcohol before entering the bar. The second match, consuming the alcohol until she was intoxicated. The third match, choosing to get behind the wheel, putting her life and other lives at risk. The library couldn't have known of the matches that college student had. Likewise, Sonny's rooftop bar could not have prevented what it could not have predicted. But the plaintiff wants you to disregard the lack of predictability today's case had. What today's case comes down to is the plaintiff's burden to prove to you that before Jessica Marks was served, she was obviously intoxicated. So they called Morgan Levin to the stand, whose testimony contradicted itself in a very important way. Now, remember, on direct examination, Morgan Levin testified the usual signs of intoxication, slurred speech, and red eyes. And the Jessica Marks clearly exhibited those on the 24th of March. But then on cross-examination, Morgan Levin testified she never could point to a specific time where Jessica Marks had those symptoms. Opposing counsel also snapped a couple of times during his closing argument, and I found that interesting, members of the jury. Because if you think about it, the timeline of today's case is quite intriguing. Morgan Levin's testimony changed in an instant after plaintiff counsel interviewed her. If that doesn't speak to the credibility of the plaintiff's evidence, nothing does. At the start of today's case, I told you about 4 things you learned throughout this trial. 1, Jessica Marks used a fake ID to enter Sonny's rooftop bar. 2, Jessica Marks chose to consume all that alcohol despite knowing that it was illegal. 3, members of the jury, no employee of Sonny's rooftop bar saw Jessica Marks was intoxicated. And 4, death of Jessica Marks was caused by her own actions. So let's address these one by one. First, Morgan Levin testified that she and Jessica Marks used a fake ID to enter Sonny's rooftop bar that night. To the second point, Morgan Levin testified Jessica Marks was intoxicated despite knowing that it was against the law. To the third point, no employee of Sonny's rooftop bar saw Jessica Marks obviously intoxicated. You heard from Sonny Mehta today. She served Jessica Marks every single time, and not once did Jessica Marks display any signs of being intoxicated. To the final point, the death of Jessica Marks was caused by her own actions. No one forced Jessica Marks to lie that night. And no one forced Jessica Marks to drink that night. No one forced Jessica Marks to drive that night. And Jessica Marks' decision to drink, it wasn't just a substantial cause. It was the sole cause of her death on March 24th, 2019. Now again, members of the jury, Sonny's rooftop bar and its employees wish the events of March 24th didn't happen. What happened was a tragedy. But you have to know, Sonny's rooftop bar didn't know of the matches that Jessica Marks had that night. They didn't know those matches would cause the fire that was March 24th. But members of the jury, even though this case might look like a massive fire, to find a fair verdict in this trial, all you have to do is look for who threw the first match. You have to understand you can't ignore the obvious if it's not obvious in the first place. You have to understand Sonny's rooftop bar could not prevent what it could not predict. That's why at the conclusion of today's case, in just a couple moments, we ask you find a verdict in favor of the defense. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any rebuttal argument from the committee?
Yes, Your Honor, I believe we have about 2 minutes remaining.
All right.
May I proceed?
You may.
We agree. Jessica Marks made the decision to go to that bar. Jessica Marks made the decision to use her fake ID. Jessica Marks made the decision to drink. But when Miss Marks's eyes became bloodshot, when she started slurring her words, when she started stumbling, the responsibility to protect her, it didn't fall on Miss Marks herself. It didn't fall on a drunk 19-year-old girl. No, it fell on the bar. Because today, the defense told you all about the matches Miss Marks brought to that bar. But that's not true. It was the bar themselves that supplied her with the matches, and when it caught on fire, it was their responsibility to put it out. And we saw how they handled that responsibility today. Miss Marks on the stand today, Miss Mehta on the stand today, she told you. She didn't have the time to check Miss Marks's fake ID. She told you she knew. In hindsight, it was fake. The reality is, members of the jury, she didn't care whether Miss Marks was underage. She didn't care whether or not Miss Marks was obviously intoxicated in her bar. She ignored the obvious. And because of that, Miss Marks is dead. Find the defendant liable. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I believe that concludes our trial. So now I and the other judges will complete our ballots. I'm going to turn off my camera and audio in the meantime, and I would just ask the other judges to type in the chat when their ballots are done and in. Once everybody's is, we'll come back on for brief comments.